Hey, welcome back to Life on the Wrist. Hope you're doing well. So I'm going to discuss one of the watches that I really fell in love with when I was first exploring vintage watches, and that is the Universal Genève Tri-Compax. As you probably know, there are a few vintage watches that I fell in love with when I first got into watches, the first being the Memosail, which is the watch that I'm wearing today. I kind of got into yacht timer watches, saw these watches on Instagram, started looking on the vintage market, and this was actually my first vintage watch purchase. But during the same time, I kind of also fell in love with the Universal Genève chronographs that I saw on Instagram. They just represent the type of watch that I really love, and it matches kind of my ideal watch. So I thought I would discuss the Universal Genève Tri-Compax with you today, and also kind of give you my thoughts on why I love it so much. But if you are new to Life on the Wrist and the first time you're watching one of our videos, welcome to Life on the Wrist. We create videos about watches, just about any topic you can think of. So be sure to check out our other videos at our channel, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're interested in those types of videos. Also, as always, and I say every video, be sure to smash that like button for us. It really does help us out. And with that said, let's go into the Universal Genève Tri-Compax. So if you don't know much about Universal Genève, they're a Swiss watch company founded in 1894, and they're based in Neuchâtel, Switzerland, which is in the French part of Switzerland. They are an extremely well-known company and create a lot of really phenomenal watches, including watches that have their own in-house movements with them. They claim that they're the first watch company to make a chronographic wristwatch, which obviously is a big feat, especially being that the chronograph is considered by many watchmakers as one of the most complicated and hardest types of complications to master. So a pretty big claim to fame for Universal Genève. They've created many different types of watches, including the famous Polerouter, which was a venture that they took with Gerald Genta, and created a watch that obviously is very well known within the watch community. So it's obviously a very phenomenal Swiss watch company that has a lot of great heritage and puts that to good use with the watches that they end up creating from their company. I fell in love with Universal Genève Tri-Compax, which is a chronograph that was manufactured by Universal Genève between 1944 and 1949. As always, when it comes to watches that are extremely iconic, this was released at Baselworld in 1944 by Universal Genève. If you aren't familiar with what Baselworld is a watch trade show that takes place in Basel, Switzerland, which is in the northwest corner of Switzerland, where Switzerland, France, and Germany kind of meet. And it was released at that Baselworld show in 1944. So a really big release, and obviously did extremely well, which is why they produced it. But it really came into its own, I think, within the vintage watch market, obviously, 40, 50 years later. A lot of people have a misconception about the word tri in the watch's name as Tri-Compax. A lot of the times they think it refers to the 3 subdials, but it actually refers to the 3 complications that the watch has, which includes a moon phase function, a calendar, and a chronograph. Obviously it has the time as well, but the Tri-Compax is referring to those 3 complications. Within the Universal Genève Tri-Compax, there were a couple of movements that were used within to power these watches. They were the Universal Genève Caliber 481, 287, and 281. These were all Ebauches based movements that they obviously played with in order to meet their needs. So you're looking at extremely well manufactured movements from Universal Genève that had modifications made to them to fit the purpose of the watch. The majority of these Tri-Compaxes came with rectangular pushers, which a lot of the times kind of has that real vintage chronograph vibe to it, which is something that I really like about it. And I kind of going into the reason why I really love this watch. I love this watch because it really has an extremely classical design to it. This kind of is reminiscent of a lot of watches from very high-end watch companies like Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, and the like, Vacheron Constantin as well. But you're also not going to be paying those types of prices if you are looking to purchase one. So I like the fact that it has that classical, very romantic style to it, but price tag is a little bit nicer. I also love the fact that the watch is really, there was a lot of thought and effort put into the configuration of the dial, which is obviously one of the first things you're going to end up looking at is how the dial's laid out, because that's the first thing that your eye really sees. So I like the fact that I can see that Universal Genève put a little bit of time and effort to identify a configuration of the dial that would work for their, I guess, approach and goal. And the reason why I appreciate this a lot is because having those three complications in one watch is often very, you can really create a very messy dial if you have so many complications on your watch, and that kind of lends itself to reducing the legibility of the watch, which is obviously not good if you're looking for a watch to be functional. So I love the way, I think it's actually beautifully configured and beautiful complications to put together. I love the moon phase complication. It is probably the most worthless complication out there, but it is just so beautiful and kind of brings you back to those romantic aesthetics that go into those types of watches. Obviously a calendar function is very useful, but you have your phone for it, so it's probably not as functional, but at the same time, it's a cool thing to have in your watch. And the chronograph is ultimately a stopwatch, but it's one of my favorite complications, being that it is quite difficult to master, but also it's also fun just to see your watch tick away. So really beautiful complications. I also love the fact that there are many variations of the Universal Genève Tri-Compax. There's different case metals you can find. I love the fact that you can get a panda dial or a non-panda dial. You can also get a straight black dial. I also like the fact that there are various sizes of the watch. The sizing is obviously going to be on the smaller side if you're looking at watches compared to the sizes that a lot of people wear today. So they are on the smaller side. 36, I think that some of them were produced in 34 millimeters, but up to 36. There might be some that are a little bit larger, but there are variations in the size. So if you have smaller wrists like I do, it fits your wrist. But if you're looking for something a little bit more classic, perhaps a little bit more dressy, this could work. Instead of wearing a larger watch, this could work for that type of function. I also love the fact, and this is probably the best part, is the fact that the patina that is kind of shows on these watches is, I think it is the definition of vintage. You find a lot of cream dials that were originally white have kind of aged to this beautiful cream, and I think that's one of the reasons why I love vintage watches so much, is how patina kind of affects these watches. You also can see sometimes cases get oxidized, so it has that kind of like shimmer to it, which I really like. I also like the fact that they're relatively uncommon. They were only produced between 44 and 49. 1944 and 1949, so they're relatively uncommon. Obviously the prices have increased dramatically within recent years, but they are relatively uncommon and would be something interesting to wear on your wrist and have in your collection that perhaps not everyone would end up having. I also think that it's I think Ben Clymer owned a Tri-Compax, and I think that kind of really took off, made the Tri-Compaxes take off in prices. So you are going to have to spend a little bit of money in order to acquire one, but I think it's definitely worth the price if you are comparing it to other complicated chronograph, calendar chronograph watches from companies like Vacheron Constantin, Audemars Piguet, you are going to end up spending a little bit more money. So relatively affordable as well compared to those watch companies. So those are some of the reasons why I love the Universal Genève Tri-Compax. I think it still has a lot of room to grow in value. I think if you are looking to purchase one, be sure to do your research and make sure it is authentic, because I have seen a lot of Franken Universal Genève Tri-Compaxes, so be sure to do that. But I hope this was helpful and gave you a little bit of information about the watch, and you could see some pictures all in one space that would at least maybe make you fall in love with this watch as much as I have. So if you are new to the channel and you've made it this far, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you like these types of videos. If you have some video suggestions, be sure to put them in the comment section below. I want to be creating videos that you guys will be interested in and would want to end up watching, so be sure to put that in the comment section below. As I said in the beginning of the video, be sure to smash that like button if you haven't already. It really does help us out. Also, if you are new to the channel, we also have a vintage watch store where we sell watches that we have the backstory of. We think the stories behind the watches are what makes them so important. Right now we have a Gerald Genta Seahawk with its box in the vintage watch store, so be sure to check that out. I'll put a link in the description to our store so you can at least check out the pictures, because like I said about this watch, that it patinas really well. This Gerald Genta has really patinaed to this beautiful cream dial. and it has really great, it's just a really great looking watch. So be sure to check that out in our store. And with that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time.